I'm going to give you the top 30 n8n tips and tricks that's going to take you from an absolute beginner to a seasoned vet. I've built dozens of workflows in n8n, and I had to painfully discover these tips to speed up my workflow. But now I use them to save me hours every single week. And instead of you having to go through the exact same painful process I went through, I just want to share all of these with you so you can quickly become an expert in n8n. So let's jump into it. And if you want to get all of these, which I've built out here and we'll go through, the best way to do that is to go to my free school community. So here, and then you can go into the classroom section, n8n fundamentals, and then you can download it for free here. Just click this, download. Then you can go into n8n, click the three dots, import from file, and there you go. You have the workflow. So now let's go in and let's explore these tips. So number one is we're going to be using AI to set up a HTTP node. So this is one of the most annoying things to do in n8n. You need to go in, you need to figure out how you set this up so you can work with other apps. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a few hacks to do this really quickly. Hack number one. So this is HeyGen. I've just taken a random AI software, and this is something I would potentially want to connect in n8n. So you can see here, they have their API documentation. And this is very complex. There's lots of lines of code. But a way to add this in really easily in n8n is here we see they have a CURL. If we copy this, then we go into n8n, we click the node and we say import CURL. All we need to do is paste it in here. And there we go. Everything is filled out for us. All we need to do is add our API key. So this immediately saves you so much time. But it's not always that easy. So if we were to take another HTTP node, like in this case, sometimes we have documentation that give us a CURL, but they don't give us everything we need. So this is Appify. And here it's given us some information, which is great, but we can see there's extra information we need that it hasn't necessarily told us. So another tip is you can just copy it. You can go into ChatGPT and you can just say, give me a CURL for this API call. Put in all the information, and you can do this even if there isn't a CURL, and then ChatGPT is great at giving you exactly what you need. So now you can just copy this, you can go back into n8n, and there we go. Now you have it all set up. So this can save you a lot of time when you're working with APIs. Next, it's all about saving credentials in n8n. So a big thing you'll realize is oftentimes when you're communicating with other software, you need to add an API key. See, it's normally in the header parameters. We have this X API key, and then you add the API key. A better way of doing this, instead of setting this up manually every single time, is you can just set it up once by going into authentication, generic credential type, and then doing header auth. Then you can create credentials. So here, I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to add in what I had before, and then you can add in your API key. So I'll put in whatever. You can name this agent. So now by saving this, I have this. Every single time I create a node, I can just go into this and select my credentials. So this makes it a lot easier to set up. But also, if I'm sharing this workflow with anyone else, then they're not going to see my API key. This is not going to get exposed. So it keeps my workflow safe. Next tip. So this one is probably the most important tip that I'm aware of. And this is how you can import workflows by saving JSON using templates and AI. So I'm going to show you how you can get workflows from lots of different places, from n8n and using AI like ChatGPT and bring them into n8n. So the first one is how can you get workflows from n8n? And the tip here is, if you go into AI, here they have a template section. If you click templates, they have all these different types of templates you can use for your n8n automations. So if I can just click any, I'll click this first one. And then here is going to be a workflow. So how do you get this in n8n? To do that, you can say use for free, and you can copy template clipboard. So this is where you get the code. So when you get the code, in order to bring this into n8n, what you want to do is you want to go to the text editor. So in Mac, it's called text edit, and it just allows you to add in text. So I'm going to add in a new one. And what you want to do here is you want to go Format, Make Plain Text, and then you just paste in the code. So there you go, you have the code here. An important thing is when you go to save it, let's give it a name like n8n test x, you want to change this to JSON. Now when you save this, it says use JSON, and now we have it saved in the right format. So if we go back into n8n, and we open a new workflow, so let's just go into here. We can delete what we have already. Click the three dots, import from file, then here I have it. And now you can bring this in. So now you can take workflows that's already been created and import it into your workflow in n8n. So this saves you a lot of time, but I want to show you an even better step. And this is how you can use AI to generate your own workflows. So in ChatGPT, you can do the exact same thing. Where here, I've built a custom project where I've given it a prompt and some training data so that it knows how to build custom n8n workflows for me. So let me give you an example. If I were to ask it, build me a simple n8n automation to get a joke sent to my email every single day. If I do this, then I'm going to get this to write all the JSON I need for n8n, and it's going to immediately be able to give me that, and I can bring this within n8n. So let this go through, and I'll show you exactly how it works. Now we just got done creating the code. So to get this into n8n, what you want to do is go back into your text editor. Let's just create a new one. I'm going to make sure this is formatted as a plain text, and I'm going to paste in my code. And one thing you want to make sure is you don't have this little bit at the end where you have these signs. Well, that's just a code block where the code's contained. So this needs to be removed, otherwise it won't work. So we'll take these out. Now we can save this. I'm just going to say joke workflow. And then again, we need to make sure this is a JSON. And honestly, this feels like magic. So we're going to save this, use as JSON. And now if we go into n8n, let's just delete this one. We're going to import from file, joke workflow, and there we go. N8n has just, not n8n, ChatGPT has created us an entire n8n workflow. And just to see if it works, if we execute this step, there we go. We're actually getting a joke. So this is perfectly formatted. It's got notes. So this is a great way of using ChatGPT to create workflows for you. And if you want to know how I built out the custom project in n8n, then I have an entire video showing you exactly how to do that. I'll link it in the description. So now, next tip. This next tip is so useful, and this is all around pinning data. So what you can do is if we fire off this workflow, when a node activates and we get data, we don't always want to have to reactivate it every single time we run an execution, especially if we're using something expensive, because then we're going to have to pay for it every single time. So we have this data here. A great way to keep it is pressing this pin button. So by doing that, now it's going to pin that data. So if I execute again, it's not actually going to activate this. All it's going to do is going to pass the data that it was already produced. So a great way of saving money and speeding up your workflow is pinning data. Next one is using mock data. So if you already know what data you want to use, you can go into a trigger node, press this pencil sign, and then you can just paste in whatever data you want here. When you press save, then this is going to be pinned, and this is going to be the data that comes out when you run this execution. And not only for triggers, you can also do that for any node in your workflow. So press the pencil icon and you can add what mock data you want it to have. So this is like example data is always going to shoot out instead of what it actually produces. And this is really good for testing. Next one is order of execution. So this took me a while to figure out. The first thing is that in n8n, executions go from left to right. So that's fairly obvious. So let's just prove that that's the case. So left to right, when we run this, If we run the execution, fine, left to right, that's fairly clear. But what's less clear is that executions go from top to bottom. So if I run that again, you're going to see first the execution is going to go on this top row, and only when that's finished will it run on the second bottom row. So we'll do that again. Watch this, is going to the top row, and then it's going to go to the bottom row. So now if I were to say change the order, make this go down, and then I were to bring this up, now you're going to see when I run this top one's going to be run first, then the bottom one, because we changed the order. Execute that, see that ran first, now it's the bottom one. So knowing what order your workflows are going to fire in is so important, especially if you need data from this top row to use in the bottom row. So sneaky one to look out for. Next, we want to have adding nodes. So this is quite a simple one, but really useful. And it's like when you want to add a node, if I were to click on this weight 2, for example, and then I were to add a node, what it's going to do is going to automatically connect to the last node I clicked to. So if I move this down, you can see it's connected to this one because I pressed it. So if I were to click this middle one and I added it, it's going to be connected to the middle one. Same thing if I did it with the one in the end. So just a very quick way of being able to add nodes exactly where we want them. And there's all these little workflows that speed up how you create everything. Like they're small, but they add up. So that's this tip. Next, we have schema preview. So this one is really useful. So if you have a node, like this is a Notion node, and when you set this up, you don't actually have, like you can't see the input and output. So normally I would have to set it up first, I would have to execute it, and then I'll see what comes out, and only then can I start setting things up, which is kind of annoying because sometimes I'd want to set it up before executing it. So a good way to see the schema without doing this is if you connect any other node, and then you go to it, it shows you a schema preview. So here I can see what we expect to come out from this node. So this is really useful if I want to then set this up, and then I want to maybe set this up and add in whatever I think is going to come out. So schema preview is really useful. Next, we have updating n8n. So let's save this. What's really weird about n8n is it doesn't update automatically. So since you've joined, if you haven't updated it, that means you're not running with the latest features. So the update n8n, what you need to do is, we'll do it actually from this one. We'll need to go to admin panel. And then from admin panel, you want to go to manage. And here you have your n8n version. So you want to click down and make sure you're doing the latest one and then save changes. It then takes about 5 minutes to update and then you can go back in. So you need to do this manually. So check every week or two to make sure you're running the latest features. Otherwise you won't get them. Next tip. How do we get our agents to provide a specific output? So when you're running AI agents, making sure you control what comes out of them is absolutely critical for a successful automation. So the way you can do this is, if you see here, we only have 3 inputs: chat model, memory, and tool. If you click into it, there's a toggle here that says require specific output format. So if I turn this on, you're going to see another input has come out now called output parser. What this does is it lets us choose how this AI agent outputs data. So you want to click this, select structured output parser, and then now you can tell it exactly how you want the data to come out. So here's an example, and you can just pop in exactly what you want. So that is how you control the output data that comes out from an agent. But if you want to take this even a step further, and let's say we remove this, there's this auto-fixing output parser. So now, if you ever have a AI agent that maybe is going to be dealing with lots of different types of data, and you think it could likely fail, you can have this auto-fixing output parser. And what this does is it uses AI to figure out what it should produce as an output. So you just need to connect this, and then from there, connect it to the structured output parser, and then connect an AI model. So for me, I can connect ChatGPT. So by doing that, I've had it where I've had a workflow automation, and sometimes it will produce null items. So this is just when a JSON's empty, and other times we'll have data. But when it was empty, it was causing my workflow to fail. So just having this in, it made sure to change the output so it always worked. So really handy tip when you're using AI agents and you want a specific output. Next tip, also when it comes to AI agents and you want to give your AI agents access to time. So lots of times if you have a calendar agent or you have an email agent, you want it to know the time, but it doesn't have that as a feature. So if I were to just message this model, let's say I took this out and I can save this and I asked it, what is the time? Pretty basic question, right? I'm going to ask it that and it's going to not be able to tell it to me. So I don't have real-time capabilities. So this is very important to know when building AI agents. You don't have this feature out of the box, but you can get it. And the way you do that is you need to paste in time and then you just do double brackets, # now. So if you do that, it gets access to the time. So if I now ask it again, what's the time? It's going to be able to give me the exact time. And now it can use different tools like calendars and emails and use them properly. So this is one way which you could trip up, but now you know how to avoid it. Let's keep going. Sub-agents. So with an AI agent, you're able to not only give it access to tools like Google Sheets, Gmail, you can also give it access to entire other agents as tools. So here we have an AI agent node. What I've connected it to is another AI agent. So here I've created an AI agent. I can open it up. That creates a LinkedIn post for me. So here I've set it up. And what I've done is I've made sure it can only be executed by another agent by using this node. And then it tells me if it's successful or it needs to try again. By having this set up, you're able to get agents that use other agents as tools, which is massively powerful. You just need to give a description of what the tool does and connect your other workflow. So by doing that, you're then able to have agents stacked on top of each other. And this is a very important tip when you want to create very powerful AI agents in n8n. Continuing on, when an AI agent fires, how can we see the steps it took? How can we understand if an error happened or we want to understand what's happening behind the hood? How can we find this out? So this is where executions, logs, and sublogs come in. So let's take the example of the one we've just used. We'll take our trigger with us and we'll connect it here. So if I were to ask this agent, write me a post about AI agents on LinkedIn. So now if I do this, it's going to be able to call my other agent. It may fail because of the credentials. I just remembered I need to set that up. But even if it fails, that's perfect, because then we can see what went wrong. So let's see what it's going to give us. So now we hit the sub agent. Oh, and actually did it. Perfect. Didn't fail. So now we have our LinkedIn post. So if I want to know, okay, what actually happened there, there's a few ways you can do this. The first way is you have a log here. And this log gives you a few of the steps that's going on. So I know it hit OpenAI, hit the LinkedIn agent, and then OpenAI again, and it takes you through the steps. Another way you can find out is if you click into the AI agent, there's a log section here. So you click logs, and then you can see all the steps. And this is really useful because you can see the inputs we gave it and the outputs it gets. So here it gets the input, the output. So again, really useful. Then the final way is if you go to executions on the top, you can go to your latest execution. And then here you can see your entire canvas. And if we scroll down, we can see our workflow here. So we can double click into it and we can see what happened. So there's 3 ways of diagnosing your executions and figuring out what exactly is happening. So really useful. The next way is copy executions to the editor. So let's say I had an execution, but I want to bring it into the canvas. So for example, here we have an execution. If I were to scroll down, and I'll be able to see what happens, but I can't edit anything. You see here, I can't change anything. All it's doing is statically displaying what has happened. But if you were to press copy to editor, what this does is it takes all the data from this execution and then it brings it back to the editor. And now you can make changes, you can update it with that data already in. So really useful when you're trying to make changes based on a specific execution. Another one that's very powerful, especially if you make mistakes, is workflow history. So you may have realized, but there's this little button here where if you press it, first you need to save, you're able to see your workflow history. So all the different changes you made. And if you were to go to one and you press actions, you can restore to that version. You can clone this into a new workflow or open this in a new tab. So if you've done something, you were trying something out, it's gone horribly wrong, this is a great way of going back to those old versions and keeping your workflow safe. So it's kind of like GitHub, right? So you're always being able to track your changes. Really useful feature. So let's go back to our workflow. So we've gone workflow history. Next is sticky notes. So you may have not noticed already, but I love sticky notes in n8n. And that's because it lets you keep everything very organized. Especially if you're sharing your workflows with others, you want to annotate and let people know what's going on. So if you right click, you can press add sticky notes and you get a sticky note. And then you double click into them and then you can write out what you want. In order to write this out, it uses something called Markdown, which is it's like a way of formatting your notes within this. So an easy way to do this is just go to ChatGPT and say, write this out in Markdown. But really, you just need to write the title and you can add points below it if you're not doing anything too fancy. So this is how you add sticky notes. And what I do also is if I'm working with people, I'll use sticky notes to support my collaboration. So you can have a color scheme where this could be a normal note. Something's finished, you can have it in green. If you want someone to make changes, you can have it in purple. Something's causing errors, you can have it in red. And another sneaky tip is you can add images to post-it notes. So to do that, you just want to upload an image and have it hosted somewhere. So you can use something like this website, IMGBB, which you can do lots of free stuff with. And when you host it and you have your URL, you go back into n8n. Then when you click into it, all you want is this brackets. So you don't even need to have profile photo here, but this can be empty. And then you just want these brackets and your link. And by doing that, you can have a picture in there. So again, really useful. Next is the ability to deactivate nodes. So if you have a workflow here, you can see these nodes are deactivated. So if I get my trigger back, let's see where we left that guy, all the way up here. So let's get our trigger. So now if I were to bring my trigger here and I wanted to activate this workflow and execute it, it's going to skip over these and go straight to this. So this is useful if you want to make a quick change, but you don't want to delete everything and move it away. You can just deactivate it. So to deactivate a node, you right click it and you can deactivate. And then reactivating it, same thing, activate. So this is really useful. Also, if a node is bugging, this is a good way of quickly taking it out to see if it's working without it. Speaking of bugs, a good way to set up your node to deal with errors is whenever you have any node, you want to click into it, and in the settings section, you can have on error. And this tells the node what it should do when an error happens. So sometimes you may want to stop the workflow. That's what the default is. But other times, you want it to continue and just pass the error along, or continue using the error output. So it depends what you want to do, but this allows you to control your automation. So maybe if it's a small bug and it doesn't impact the wider automation, it's not going to stop everything. So this is a really good way of planning that logic in as you're creating your workflows. And then final tip here, before we go into our keyboard shortcuts, is removing n8n attribution. So if you're sending messages with n8n, what n8n will do by default is have a little annoying message at the end that says, this has been sent using n8n. 99% of the time, you don't want this. So the way to take this out, in Gmail, you need to go to options, go to append n8n attribution, and then you do it using this toggle. In Telegram, very similar, you go to additional fields, and then it's the append n8n attribution. And in Slack, it's a bit different. So in Slack, you need to go to options and it's include link to workflow. So this is how you remove the attribution. So these are the core tips I use to speed up my workflow in terms of actual actions I take in n8n. But this is not enough. To really speed up your workflow, what you also want to know is a few keyboard shortcuts. This is going to help you actually build the things out. So I'm going to speed through some of the top keyboard shortcuts you should know. So the first one is moving between nodes. So rather than just clicking on everything, you can click on one and then you can use your arrow keys to move between nodes. If you press enter in a node, it opens up. And if you press exit, it goes down. So a very quick way of maneuvering for your node. It's kind of like if you had Excel or Google Sheets, you don't always want to be using your mouse. You want to use your keyboard to get to things quicker. Next, if you have a node, then here you can see the fixed and expression toggle. If you just were to press the equal sign, it automatically goes to expression. Keep on going. Another one is if I wanted to add a node. So let's take this one away. Let's say I wanted to add an OpenAI node. The way to do that in the quickest possible time is to press the tab button. That opens this up. I can then type in OpenAI. I can press enter, and then I can use the arrow keys to go up and down. Then you press messenger model, and there we go. We have it up. So that's much quicker than using your mouse and then going off and clicking. You're able to add things really quickly. Next, with sticky notes, we already saw how important they are. But if we press Shift S, we can add them straight away. So keyboard shortcut for adding sticky notes. We talked about deactivating a node. So if you press D, deactivates to toggle deactivation and activation. Another one I use all the time is zoom. So if you press 1, you're able to zoom out and see all your canvas. If you press 0, it takes you to close to the center. So this is really useful. And then if you press the plus or minus sign, you're able to like move in a bit or move out a bit. So that's really good. Where did we get to? Here we go, zoom. With pinning data, we already saw how useful this is, but you can do this with one press of a button, and that's by pressing P. Pressing P, you pin data. Renaming a node. So if you were to press a node and you press F2, you can rename it. It's really important to name your nodes so that it's really clear exactly what's happening. Not only for other people, but for yourself as well. By the time you finish your automation, you go back and be like, what was this for? So it makes it really easy. And especially by referencing, as you reference your nodes throughout your automation, you want it to be really clear. You don't want to say use edit fields to, you want to say use lead data to do Y, it makes it very clear. Next is node configuration. So if you're in a node, and let's say I want to go back to the other one, normally you would click out, then you'd press back in. Instead of doing that, all you can do is move your mouse to the left, and then you can go to there. Or move your mouse to the right, and you can go to the other node. So this saves you clicking out from the canvas and going back in. And then keep going. If you want to create a new workflow, just press Command Option N for Mac or Control Alt N in Windows. If you want to save your workflow, you can do Control S. And if you want to run your execution, you can do Control or Command Enter. And you're going to be running your execution all the time. So a good way of saving time. And then finally, we have node selection. So for node selection, let's say I pressed anywhere. If I do Shift and then right, it's going to select everything to the right. If I do this, Shift then left, it's going to select everything to the left. So it's a good way of easily selecting lots of different nodes. So that's all the keyboard shortcuts. So by themselves, it may feel like it doesn't save you that much time, but when you're using all of them together, you're just going to be speeding through your workflows. So that's everything. You now know a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, all these different n8n hacks, and these are ones you have to painfully go through to figure out, but now you know them and you can get through creating your automations in half the time. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you want to take your learning deeper, I have a free n8n community where you can come in and meet other entrepreneurs, and they're all trying to use AI in their businesses. If you're ready to take your learning even further, I have a private community, and here we have online courses. You can go through the fundamentals of n8n, you learn about AI agents, sales and marketing workflows, vibe coding, and a lot more. So this is for when you really want to master n8n and get better at it. So I hope you found this useful, and I will catch you next time.